Hello, everybody. Welcome yet again to another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. You know, one of the big themes that we always discuss is wellness, living better, medicine. Here's a little known fact that maybe you don't know. For about 2,000 to 3,000 years, the history of man, average life expectancy, about 40 years old. It never changed before 1945. In the post-World War II era, life expectancy has doubled. That is the fact. And one of the major reasons we have had such longevity now is because of breakthroughs in medical, in drugs, research, all of those factors, biotechnology. And one of the major areas, obviously, is cancer. We now have so many more cures, ways of dealing with cancer than ever before. And with us today, we have another cancer company, Immunotherapy. Marc Voigt of Immutep is with us here today to talk about his company, how they are helping extend lives, making people's lives better, all in effect that's going to help us. Marc, with that introduction, welcome to 18 Minutes with 180 Markets.
Hi, Greg. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Hey, Marc. Drugs and medicine in general, obviously incredibly complicated, but it all starts with somebody's background because at the end of the day, it's people like you that are helping people like us. Can you just give us a little bit about your background?
Sure. However, I don't want to bore the audience with too many personal details, but actually I have my background in finance and started in the finance industry, including investment banking. And then in the early 2000s have been investment manager, healthcare venture capital, so biotechnology, medtech, life science, IT, very transaction driven. And then I took over in two of the companies in the fund. So I learned how hard it is actually to be on the operational side of a biotech company, to run around, beg for money, to discuss with the pharmaceutical industry, not to talk of drug development, let it be preclinical or clinical. So I did that for a number of years, I believe with some good success in terms of transactions with the pharmaceutical industry. And then I joined later on what is today Immutep and took over as CEO in 2014. And it's a very, very interesting journey so far. And I'm very, very motivated by what we are doing, especially in terms of clinical development and oncology, especially as I've been involved in oncology now since more than 15 years.
Fantastic, fantastic. And obviously you have that finance background, and maybe you can just give the viewers a little bit of a taste of how is it that I believe you originally started out as a small French company, is that right? And you're listed on the ASX, but you're also in Germany, and we can, maybe discuss how that came about and also how biotechnology is just a truly global business these days.
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. Indeed, I believe biotech and the major problems of healthcare in general really need to have a global approach. By definition, scientific progress is a global endeavor. This is why you have big congresses around the world. These days are more virtual, of course, and also drug development by the big pharmaceutical industry, but also by biotech is a global approach. And as it is a risky undertaking, for sure, it's not easy to develop a new drug. It's best if you tackle the different regulatory environments. So we are, for instance, active in the United States with the FDA, in Europe, different European countries, as well as the EMA, of course, also Australia. And your question in terms of how came it about is that we started in Australia as a biotech company already years ago. And we changed, and that's not unusual that you change, that you learn when you walk. So we decided to acquire a private French company back by the end of 2014, just when I've been taken over as CEO, in order to reposition our business. And we have been searching at the time for a company with good and robust scientific fundament, with good product development, and developing the next big wave of immunotherapy. So that has been our focus, oncology, and actually we have also capabilities in autoimmune diseases.
Amazing, amazing. And speaking of oncology, how does Immutep fit into the whole suite, if you will, of oncology treatment?
Yeah, I think we are fitting very well, and it's an extremely complex and diverse field. You have many different approaches. The reality is oncology, different cancer indications, lung cancer, colorectal cancer, head and neck cancer, it's quite complex. So very often you have different drugs attacking the tumor cells from different angles, if you like. So it's good to join forces and to come up with the right combination therapies to attack the tumors from multiple different ways. And we do that in our clinical studies, for instance, together with Keytruda, a multi-billion-dollar blockbuster drug, which is marketed by Merck. So you have to follow scientific evidence. This is why you undertake preclinical and then clinical experiments. And the reality is that, and this is going back to the comments you made earlier on, that the field has been changing quite a lot. There have been paradigm shifts, especially in the past 10 years, where immunotherapy is one of the big backbones in terms of cancer treatments.
Excellent, excellent. And also, would you mind explaining, and this is more specific to your business, what is exactly LAG-3? And again, bear in mind that we're not necessarily all scientists.
Oh, of course. LAG-3 is a so-called immune checkpoint, and we are global leaders in terms of that immune checkpoint. And you can think of immune checkpoints like little triggers in your immune system, which could upregulate your immune system or downregulate the immune system. And there you see already the relevance for oncology, where you would like to have an active immune system, where you would like to enable your own immune system to actively fight cancer, or in autoimmune diseases, that's the flip side of the coin, where you would like to downmodulate an immune system which has been getting out of control.
Right. Okay. So Immutep then, it works in conjunction with other products is the best way to describe it is if somebody sadly has a case of cancer, they're going to be treated, their protocol is going to involve many different forms, if you will, where Immutep is one of them?
For one of our products, that could be the case, and that's the way to go for most of the cancer treatments today. It's really about combinations. We have in total 4 different product candidates, just to make that point clear. We have 2 in oncology and 2 in autoimmune diseases. And actually our flagship called eftilagimod alpha, we treat in combinations with different other drugs, even though we have had, of course, also a monotherapy trial in the past.
Fantastic. And in relation to eftilagimod, what should investors look for as far as the next up and coming, significant events in your opinion?
In terms of cancer immunotherapy or immuno-oncology, I think it's really about the next immune checkpoint being successful beyond so-called PD-1 or CTLA-4, so checkpoints where you have approved multi-billion-dollar blockbuster drugs. And it's now about time that something new enters the scene. And we believe that LAG-3 has an excellent chance. If you look back to the clinical development of the industry, you see that you have nowadays dozens of clinical trials and thousands of patients being treated with LAG-3 related therapies. So we have a lot on our plate in terms of clinical trials, and in our industry, it's about good, proven scientific progress. So alongside the clinical development, but also Bristol Myers Squibb, a very big company, has an anti-LAG-3 drug in a phase 3, which is supposed to read out by end of this or beginning of next year. And as we are a leader in the field, this should, of course, positively influence our endeavors.
Fantastic. And are you in, as far as the phases then, are you in a certain phase within the business, phase 1, 2, or 3?
Yes, we are actually in 2 phase 2 clinical trials for our lead product candidate. Our partner Novartis with another oncology drug, which we exclusively worldwide license to them, has now 4 phase 2 trials, 1 phase 1. Our other partner for autoimmune diseases, or one of our autoimmune disease products, has one phase 2 running and successfully completed 2 phase 1 clinical trials. So we are already at a comparably mature stage where I believe we have a very robust fundament to also deliver on our business model in the future.
Fantastic. And as far as hearing further results going from phase 2 to phase 3, would say that take place over the next 12 months, do you think?
So first of all, our phase 2 clinical trials, one is a metastatic breast cancer. That should deliver overall survival data till end of this year. So it's relatively near term. Our other trial, which we do together with Merck, also phase 2 in non-small cell lung cancer, first line, second line, and head and neck cancer, will also deliver data till end of this year and then early next year. And I believe these 2 trials deliver a very robust fundament to see what the drug does, and the interim results have been encouraging in that respect. We have another trial, a phase 1, we do together with Pfizer, combination with avelumab, and this should also read out till end of this year. So indeed, we should have a big data package ready in the coming 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, that sounds like a huge amount, to be honest with you. And also, you mentioned there are obviously a lot of very large companies, Pfizer, Bristol Myers, Merck. Can you explain for the audience also how to take a product from day one to where it's actively into patients is an enormous effort? Can you just describe for the investors, how is it that a biotech company works with a big pharma company to make that marriage happen for both parties?
Yeah, it's a very important question, actually, and I believe it's one of the key principles our industry, meaning the biotech industry, should have. So it's about, at the end of the day, that most biotech companies will not commercialize their own drugs or drug candidates. So typically it's that you try to collaborate with a big pharmaceutical industry. So it's part of your business model, and this is also where the value is. It's not the journey until it's prescribed to patients, but typically it's a journey until you team up with a big pharmaceutical industry. And of course, it's important, like in every other industry, you should know your customer. And we have contacts with the big pharmaceutical industry, and I think that's publicly known, with GlaxoSmithKline, with Novartis, with Pfizer, with Merck in the US, Merck in Germany. So actually we collaborate already with 5 out of the top 20 pharma companies, meaning that you need to pass due diligence, meaning that you need to be connected in various different levels, and in a very data-driven mode, bring your product hopefully to success, because it allows you then also to incorporate the feedback and the hurdles and criteria of the big pharmaceutical industry in your own development program. So to create multiple shots on goal, and also, of course, to create the right competitive tension if the data is right to discuss with them and achieve something great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like from your background that you certainly know all the players and know how important that is, I suppose. I'd say, people would also want to know, just from a health point of view, so from where we sit today, is it possible within 3 to 5 years that your products could easily be in use for patients, helping them get better?
Yes, that could very well be. It depends very much on the results which we are about to create, or creating practically as we speak. So we are relatively late stage. There are certain ways you can be on the market earlier on. And of course, our plans to go towards commercialization in conjunction with the industry, I should say, are there, and the data we are creating, and then we will see how long the next step would take if a next step is required.
Absolutely. And also, Marc, and again, coming back to your finance background, you know how important finance is. Can you just talk a little bit about your existing balance sheet and how do you stand as far as funding?
Yeah, in our last 4C, we had $26 million cash on bank. And this brings us through all the catalysts I mentioned. So through our clinical development program, also through, for instance, clinical proof of concept in the phase 2 from GlaxoSmithKline, which is expected first half of next year. well towards end of next year. So we feel that we are well financed for the time being for what we do. It's very, very important to have always an eye on the balance sheet, but we are in good shape.
Absolutely. I think that, we were speaking about it before. The cost of getting any type of medical product to the market is just incredible, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's easily up to $4 billion US. It takes 10, 15, 18 years to bring a drug to the market. It's a very, very highly regulated business for good reasons. I mean, we are talking here about patients, about safety, about hopes of patients, especially cancer patients. So it's very important. It's expensive, yes. Biotech, however, is very often cheaper and also faster than the big pharmaceutical industry. I think that's a fair statement.
Absolutely. Hey, Marc, before we close off, I can't help but ask on it, how is it that you keep yourself motivated on such a long journey with, let's be honest, there is some high risk and there's going to be some ups and downs. How do you keep yourself focused?
Yeah, it's a longer and sustainable mode biotech should act in, especially if you deal with your customer, where also integrity comes into play. So we are ethically motivated. I'm ethically motivated. I think everyone had the case of cancer. It's, however, not only ethical and altruistic, it's also an extremely lucrative business if you are successful. You have a lot of ups and downs in your share price, and we are unfortunately no exception there. I don't complain about the ups, more about the downs, as you will understand. But at the end of the day, if you have a blockbuster drug which could be successfully applied to the major market, the sky is the limit, then you hit the jackpot. So that you need to take some time for that. It's clear that you need to have the big pharmaceutical industry. It's also understood. And this is why you have to be focused, and it's more a marathon than a sprint. But especially we are now entering the stage of maturity with many, many value inflection points. So we hope, of course, that the discussions we are having leading to the right endpoint.
Marc, with that, I want to say thank you very much for your time. It really is incredible the work that people like you are doing. And, frankly, we are the beneficiaries, we meaning the audience. So with that, Marc, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Bye.